Well, political parties have been quick to list their successes over the past 5 years, with the DA claiming many accomplishments in the Western Cape, the only province it governs, and the ANC naming its achievements across the rest of the country.
But as voters prepare to go to the polls tomorrow, how accurate are those claims and how seriously should we take them? Joining us with her view is Kate Wilkinson, a researcher with Africa Check. Kate, thanks very much for coming in today. So we've had many claims of what the ANC has achieved or accomplished over the past 5 years, DA as well in the Western Cape. If you look at those things and if you follow through, how accurate are the claims always though?
It depends. Africa Check has looked at both claims made by the ANC and the Democratic Alliance in the lead up to the 2014 elections. And in both parties and in numerous claims, there have been claims which we found to be correct, some which we found to be partially correct or maybe misleading, and others which have been absolutely false.
How tricky has it been sorting fact from fiction on your end? How do you actually go about evaluating these key claims?
Well, first we go about finding them. In a number of cases, claims are directed to us through members of the public who hear a claim being made and something goes off in their head and they think something's not quite right there. They contact us either through social media or our website and they send the claims to us. But we've also monitored election manifestos, social media campaigns and videos which have been released by the parties. And from there, once we have got the claims which we're going to be checking together, we start drilling into the data, looking at available annual reports and looking for any evidence which will support or refute the claims.
Well, election 2014 seems to be really based on the economy and jobs, or that's at least where the promises are coming. We have Pravin Gordhan, the finance minister, claiming 1.2 million jobs were created between 2009 and 2013. How do you actually establish or check up on that though? Because while jobs may have been created, other jobs have been lost and obviously the workforce has grown over the same period.
Yes, we're very lucky in South Africa. We work across a number of African countries, and one thing that we can count our blessings for here is that we can get hold of data and that government agencies are willing and are receptive to our requests for this information, and that makes our job quite easy. And in that regard, we rely a lot on Stats South Africa data. But it's often quite interesting not just to look at the numbers, but to look at how the claim is presented. For example, you have President Jacob Zuma claiming that over the last 5 years, 3.7 work opportunities have been created. And there are two issues there. First of all, the audited figures for the last year haven't been released yet. So the numbers we have put it at 3.1 million work opportunities. So we actually have to wait for that data to be released before we can actually verify or disprove this claim. Secondly, is actually looking at the definition of a work opportunity. It's a great thing to claim and to put out there as an achievement, but when you actually look at it, a work opportunity doesn't translate to a permanent job or position for someone. They are temporary positions which can really define a period of work for any period of time. And in some cases, this can be from as little as 4 to 6 months.
Okay, so that's part of your job, I mean, going on this fact-finding mission, if we can call it that. If we're looking at the public, the South African public at large, how are you rating acceptance of claims on their end? Is the South African public critical enough, or have we become complacent about it all?
I think that's an interesting question, because I think for quite a long time, claims from politicians have just been accepted as fact. They're accepted at face value, and there's very little that we've seen of people challenging these claims. For a number of reasons. Often the people making these claims are in position of powers. They're party leaders, they're representatives, and the public may not feel that they're in the position to actually say to someone, you've made this claim, you need to show me where the proof is that it's true.
Of course, politicians never like it.
Never.
And does it come, part and parcel of campaigning, putting your best foot forward, so to speak?
And cherry-picking the best claims that you can substantiate,
exactly,
perhaps.
and then showing your competitors up at the end of the day.
Yes, and we've seen in this election campaign that every party has their good story to tell. And with that pressure to present the good story to the public and the voters, I think it's that pressure which leads to facts being misrepresented, twisted, and in some cases fabricated. And some of the claims move very far away from where the truth lies.
Any sense of which party has perhaps been most inaccurate with their claims?
I think that's difficult to say, because we don't look at all the claims made by political parties. We generally approach and fact check groups of claims which come out of either a video, as we did when the DA released their Western Cape story video, or by a social media campaign which was done by the ANC. But what we are seeing is that parties are becoming aware that not just Africa Check, but the public are asking questions. And throughout this election campaign, we have had members of the public contacting us about these claims. And while the broad aim of Africa Check is to encourage public debate and accuracy in the public debate, it's also to encourage public to be more critical and to not take claims at their face value, and to interrogate people who are making these claims.
Kate, are you able to pinpoint the most outlandish claim that's been made through this electioneering period?
The most outlandish. One which surprised me was one which I thought was true, because often when I come to these fact checks, I approach them from the perspective that it's true, and I need to find information to support it, and in the absence of that, information to disprove it. And the DA made a claim that since 2011, Western Cape provincial government departments have come in the top 3 spots of the annual Public Sector Reporting Awards. And I looked into that, and that is true. They've scooped the top 3 spots since 2011, with the Department of Agriculture coming first in all those years. But then the party went on to claim that the Western Cape, when it was run by the ANC, did not achieve any of the top 3 spots in the Public Sector Reporting Awards. And I started going through the years, and I went to 2008, no Western Cape departments, got to 2007, and there were 2 Western Cape provincial departments in the top 3. And in the year prior, 2006, there was also a Western Cape department, which was currently being run by the ANC. And that's just the sort of it's a misleading claim which is so easily checked. And it really does, it is surprising that a party would make that claim when the information is so easily available. It's public information. It took maybe 20 minutes to disprove it. And political parties really have to up their games. Their claims need to be accurate, and they have to be ready and willing to provide information to back them up. They mustn't be taken back when Africa Check or a member of the public asks to see evidence of the claim.
I should imagine sometimes that it's very difficult to check up on the facts of the claims. So if we have the finance minister saying that more than R1 trillion has been spent on infrastructure over the past 5 years, how do you start checking that? Because it depends on your definition of infrastructure. So he says supporting the manufacturing sector, increased public works, social infrastructure. Can you back up a claim like that?
It is difficult. We encounter a number of claims on a daily basis which are difficult to fact check. It comes down to a definition, it comes down to interpretation, it also comes down to data which government may have access to, but it hasn't been released yet, or they're not willing to release. The first thing we try to do is to approach the person who has made the claim, to ask them for proof and evidence to support it. In the absence of that, either if they can't produce it or they're unwilling to, then we go to government departments, and we have found in most cases that they are very willing to help us and assist us in verifying claims. In the absence of evidence, if we couldn't find any data to support the claim, we then tend to go to experts in the area, either to ask them for their comment, or often we find they can point us in the right direction to find the information we need.
And then, of course, the next step is holding the party accountable after it all. Thanks so much, Kate, for having
taking everything with a pinch of salt, or buckets of salt.
Thanks so much for having joined us in studio. Kate Wilkinson is a researcher with Africa Check.